My son didn't know about my $45,000 monthly salary. His wife screamed, "We don't need this old beggar. Throw her out!" I left without arguing. A week later, I took their house for myself. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I never told my son Daniel about my real salary. Why would I? For 30 years, I worked as a senior financial consultant, quietly building a comfortable life. After my husband passed 5 years ago, work became my anchor. $45,000 a month was more than I needed, so I helped Daniel and his wife Jessica buy their dream house. They thought I contributed a little from my pension. They had no idea I paid the entire down payment and held the deed in my name. I lived modestly in my small apartment across town, visiting them every Sunday for dinner. Jessica always seemed distant, polite, but cold. I attributed it to generational differences. She was 32, ambitious, always scrolling through her phone during conversations. Daniel, my only child, seemed happy enough. That's all I wanted. The first crack appeared 3 months ago. I arrived for Sunday dinner with homemade apple pie, Daniel's favorite since childhood. Jessica opened the door, her expression immediately souring. "Oh, you're early. I'm right on time, dear. 6 o'clock, like always." She didn't move from the doorway. "Daniel's working late. Again. Honestly, I don't know why we keep doing these dinners when he's never here." My stomach tightened, but I smiled. "Well, perhaps we could have a nice chat, just us girls." "I have a headache." She finally stepped aside, letting me into my own house, though she didn't know that. "Just leave the pie in the kitchen." I noticed things that evening. The new furniture, designer bags on the counter, a brochure for a Caribbean cruise on the coffee table. All while Daniel worked overtime at his accounting firm, stressed about their mortgage payments. How could they afford this? The second warning came 2 weeks later. I stopped by unannounced, something I rarely did, to drop off some documents Daniel needed. Through the window, I heard Jessica on the phone. "No, Mom. We can't afford to help you right now. We're barely keeping our heads above water." "Yes, the house payment is killing us." "No, Daniel's mother doesn't help. She's got nothing anyway." "Nothing?" I stood frozen on their porch, my hand halfway to the doorbell. That's when the pieces started falling into place. They thought I was poor. They thought I was barely scraping by on Social Security. And Jessica resented what she perceived as my neediness, my Sunday dinners, my presence in their lives. I left without knocking. The following Sunday, I came for dinner as usual. This time, Daniel was home, but something felt different. Tense. Jessica kept whispering to him in the kitchen. When we sat down to eat, she barely touched her food. "Mom," Daniel started, not meeting my eyes. "Jessica and I have been talking." "We think," Jessica interrupted, her voice sharp, "that you should consider other arrangements." I set down my fork carefully. "Other arrangements?" "You're getting older." She leaned forward, her tone dripping with false concern. "Living alone can't be safe. There are facilities, nice ones, where you'd have people around. Activities. You want me to go to a nursing home?" The words came out calmer than I felt. "An assisted living community," she corrected, as if that made it better. "You'd be happier there. And honestly, Daniel and I need our space. We're trying to start a family, and having you here every week, depending on us." "Depending on you?" Something cold settled in my chest. "Don't make this difficult," Jessica snapped. "We can't keep supporting you emotionally. We have our own lives. You need to accept that you're becoming a burden." Daniel shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. My own son, silent. I stood up slowly, gathering my purse. My hands didn't shake. 30 years of high-stakes financial negotiations had taught me control. "I understand perfectly," I said quietly. That's when Jessica made her fatal mistake. Perhaps emboldened by my calm, perhaps finally revealing her true nature, she stood up too, her face twisted with contempt. Good, because frankly, we don't need some old broke woman hanging around playing the martyr. Daniel, tell her, we don't need this. She gestured at me wildly. This old beggar in our house, throw her out. The words hung in the air like poison. Daniel's face went pale. Jessica, I mean it! Out! I looked at my son. He looked at the floor. I walked to the door, opened it, and left without another word. But as I drove home that night, I wasn't crying. I was calculating. They wanted me out of their lives? They were about to learn exactly what I'd been in their lives all along. The drive home took 20 minutes, but it felt like seconds. My mind was racing, processing, recalculating everything I thought I knew about my relationship with my son. When had I lost him? Or had I ever really had him? I pulled into my apartment parking lot and sat in the darkness, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. The neighbor's cat wandered past my windshield. Normal life, continuing as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. This old beggar. Jessica's words echoed in my head. The contempt in her voice. The certainty that I was worthless, powerless, pathetic. And Daniel's silence. That hurt more than anything. I finally went inside, made tea I didn't drink, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. Time to face the numbers. I opened my files, the real ones, the ones Daniel had never seen. The house at 2247 Maple Street, valued at $680,000. Deed holder, Margaret Ann Foster. Me, down payment, paid in full, $200,000. From my savings. Monthly mortgage payment, $3,100. Auto pay from my account, disguised as coming from D. Foster's checking. Daniel thought he was paying it. He wasn't. He was paying me, and I was paying the bank. Total invested in their home, $267,200 over 3 years. I sat back, letting the reality sink in. They were living in my house, thinking it was theirs, while calling me a beggar. The fear came then. Not of losing money. I could absorb that loss. Fear of losing Daniel forever. What I was considering. There would be no coming back from it. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. I could call him. Explain. Surely, if he knew the truth, He'd what? He stood there while his wife called me a beggar and demanded I be thrown out. He said nothing. I put the phone down. At 3 in the morning, I was still awake, walking through my apartment thinking. My late husband Robert's photo watched me from the mantel. What would you do? I whispered to his frozen smile. Robert had always been clear about family. Love them, Maggie, but don't let them walk over you. Respect is a two-way street. By dawn, my decision was made. I would give Daniel one chance. One opportunity to show he was the man I raised, not the silent bystander I saw last night. If he called to apologize, to stand up for me, to acknowledge that his wife had crossed a line, then maybe we could rebuild. My phone stayed silent all day Monday. Tuesday morning, I called my office and took a personal week. Then I called my lawyer, Thomas Chen, who'd handled Robert's estate and my financial planning for years. Margaret, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? Tom, I need you to pull the deed for 2247 Maple Street. I want to know my options. There was a pause. Tom was smart enough to know this wasn't a routine question. Is everything all right? Just exploring possibilities. Can we meet tomorrow? Of course, 10 a.m.? Wednesday morning, still no call from Daniel. I dressed in my good navy suit, the one I wore for difficult client meetings, and drove to Tom's office downtown. He had the documents ready, spread across his mahogany desk. Walk me through the situation, he said gently. I told him everything. The secret payments. Jessica's outburst. Daniel's silence. Tom listened without interrupting, his expression carefully neutral. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Margaret, I have to ask, what outcome do you want here? I want my son to grow a spine, I said flatly, and I want his wife to understand that actions have consequences. And if Daniel doesn't grow that spine? I met his eyes. Then I want to reclaim what's mine. Tom nodded slowly. Legally, you're on solid ground. The house is in your name. You could serve them notice to vacate at any time. But Margaret, this will destroy your relationship with your son. Tom, it's already destroyed. I'm just the only one who knows it yet. He was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a fresh legal pad. All right, here's what I recommend. First, we document everything. For the next 2 hours, we built a strategy. Not out of anger. I couldn't afford anger. Out of cold, clear-headed necessity. As I left Tom's office, my phone buzzed. Finally, I thought. Daniel. But it wasn't Daniel. It was Jessica. The text message read, Daniel says you're upset. You need to apologize for storming out. We're willing to forgive you this time, but don't be dramatic again. Family dinner is Sunday at 6 if you want to make things right. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I forwarded it to Tom with a single line. Proceed with documentation. Full speed ahead. Thursday morning, I did something I'd never done before. I drove past their house, my house, at 7 a.m., parking 3 houses down where I could observe without being obvious. Daniel left for work at 7:15, his shoulders hunched, tie slightly crooked. He looked tired. Good. He should be tired. Jessica emerged at 9:30 dressed in expensive athleisure wear I knew Daniel's salary couldn't afford. She climbed into her white BMW, also relatively new, and drove off. I followed at a careful distance. She pulled into an upscale shopping center. For the next 3 hours, I watched through the coffee shop window across the street as she met 2 friends for brunch, laughed, showed off her manicure, and paid the bill with a credit card. She flourished like a trophy. This was a woman who claimed they were drowning in mortgage payments. I took photos, timestamps, documented everything. Tom had been clear. If you want to protect yourself legally, you need to establish that they're financially stable without your help. It prevents any claim that you're putting them in hardship. Friday, Tom called. I've had my investigator pull some records. Margaret, you need to see this. In his office an hour later, he slid a folder across the desk. Bank statements. Publicly available information from a database he subscribed to for due diligence work. Daniel and Jessica's joint account showed regular deposits, his salary. But there were other transactions that made my blood run cold. Cash withdrawals. $3,000. $5,000. $2,500. Patterns over the past year, always a few days before the mortgage payment was supposedly due. They're taking money out, Tom said quietly, right before transferring what they think is the mortgage to your account. Then it sits there while your autopay actually covers the bank. They're skimming. The words tasted bitter. It appears so. They think they're paying $3,100 a month. They're actually paying you maybe $2,000, if that. The rest goes to, well, shopping, based on the credit card statements. I thought of Jessica's designer bags, the cruise brochures, the BMW. They're stealing from themselves, I said, because they don't know they're paying me, not the bank. Essentially, and Jessica's personal account. He pulled out another sheet. She has $47,000 in savings, her own money, separate from Daniel. Nearly $50,000 while claiming they were broke. Tom, I need to know something. If I reclaim the house, can they come after me for their payments? No. You have documentation that their payments were gifts. You never signed a promissory note with them. Legally, they've been paying you rent, if anything. And Margaret, there's something else. He pulled out the deed. You need to record this at the county office. Make it public record. Right now, if someone searched the property, they'd see you as the owner, but there's no recent activity. An updated filing will create a timestamp. It protects you. My phone rang. Daniel, I let it go to voicemail. Tom watched me. You don't have to answer. I know. But I played the voicemail on speaker. Daniel's voice was strained. Mom, Jessica told me she texted you. Look, I know Sunday was tense, but you have to understand, we're under a lot of stress. This house, the payments, everything. Maybe we all need some space. Can you just take a break from visiting? Just for a while? Call me back. Not an apology, not a condemnation of Jessica's words, just a request for me to disappear. Tom's expression was sympathetic but firm. You have your answer. Yes, I said. I do. File the deed update. Today. That afternoon, we went to the county recorder's office together. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, processed the paperwork. Just confirming the property owner for public record, she said. 2247 Maple Street, Margaret Ann Foster, sole owner. Purchased April 2022. This'll be updated in the system by Monday. I signed where indicated. My signature felt heavier than usual. As we walked out, Tom said, Once this hits the system, anyone checking the property records will see the update. If Daniel or Jessica check, they won't, I interrupted. They think they own it. Why would they check? But I was wrong. Saturday evening, my phone exploded. Daniel. Mom, what the hell is going on? Jessica got a notification from some property app. It says your name is on our house deed? Jessica. What kind of sick game are you playing? That's our house. Daniel. Mom, call me right now. This has to be a mistake. Jessica. You can't do this. We have rights. 23 messages in 10 minutes. I turned off my phone, poured a glass of wine, and sat in my quiet apartment. The point of no return had just whooshed past. There was no going back now, and honestly, I didn't want to. Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on to find 67 messages and 14 missed calls. I called Tom first. They know. I saw. Jessica left 3 voicemails at my office last night. Quite creative language. He paused. Margaret, are you ready for this? Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm ready. What's my next move? Formal notice. I'll draft a letter explaining the situation and giving them 30 days to vacate or negotiate a lease agreement. It's more than legally required, but it shows good faith. Send it. At noon, someone pounded on my apartment door, not knocked, pounded. I looked through the peephole. Daniel and Jessica, both red-faced. I opened the door but left the chain on. You need to calm down before we can have a conversation. Calm down? Jessica shrieked. You're trying to steal our house. Lower your voice or I'm closing this door. My neighbors don't need to hear this. Daniel looked like he'd been crying. That almost broke me. Almost. Mom, please, just explain. There has to be a mistake. The deed, the county records, it says you own our house, our home. There's no mistake, Daniel. I do own it. I've always owned it. I bought it for you 3 years ago. The color drained from his face. What? Jessica's eyes went wide, then narrowed with calculation. You're lying. We've been making payments. To me, not to the bank. I've been paying the mortgage from my account. That's impossible, Daniel whispered. We don't have that kind of money. You don't have that kind of money? I make $45,000 a month, Daniel. I have for years. I'm a senior financial consultant. I never told you because I didn't want money to complicate our relationship. The irony of that statement hung in the air. Jessica recovered first, her shock transforming into rage. You've been lying to us for years. What kind of sick, manipulative— I helped you, I said coldly. I gave you a home, and last Sunday you called me an old beggar and told my son to throw me out. I was angry. You can't just— Daniel, say something. But Daniel was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. All this time. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? Would you have stopped Jessica from saying what she said? Would you have defended me? Silence. Jessica grabbed his arm. She's trying to manipulate you. This is elder abuse. We can sue. We have rights. We've been paying for that house. With my money, I corrected. Money I gave you. I have documentation of every transaction. Tom Chen is my attorney. You'll be receiving formal notice to vacate or negotiate lease terms within 30 days. Lease terms? Jessica's voice hit a pitch that probably disturbed dogs 3 blocks away. That's our house. We've put our life into it. We have equity. You have nothing. Check the deed, check the mortgage, my name, my money, my house. Daniel found his voice, and it was desperate. Mom, we can't afford rent anywhere else. Not in this market. Where are we supposed to go? You have Jessica's $47,000 in savings. That should cover first, last, and deposit somewhere nice. Jessica went very still. How do you know about— I'm a financial consultant, Jessica. Due diligence is literally my job. You investigated us? Daniel looked sick. I protected myself. Tom? I hadn't noticed Tom coming up the stairs behind them, but there he was, briefcase in hand, looking every inch the attorney. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, he said pleasantly, I have your formal notice here. Shall we discuss this calmly, or do you prefer to communicate through attorneys? Jessica lunged toward me, but Daniel caught her. You bitch! You can't do this! I'll call the police. I'll call social services. We'll have you declared incompetent. Tom's expression didn't change. Mrs. Foster, if you threaten my client again, I'll add harassment to the documentation. Ms. Foster has broken no laws. She's simply reclaiming her own property. Daniel, Jessica turned to him, tears now streaming. Do something. She's destroying us. Our home. Our future. The baby. What baby? I asked quietly. Jessica's mouth snapped shut. Daniel's face went even paler. Jess, you said you weren't— The lies were unraveling in real time. Tom handed Daniel the envelope. 30 days, Mr. Foster. My contact information is inside. I suggest you consult your own attorney. They left. Jessica was screaming threats the whole way down the stairs. Daniel was silent, the envelope clutched in his shaking hands. I closed the door and leaned against it. Tom touched my shoulder gently. Are you all right? No, but I will be. Take some time, Margaret. A few days. Don't answer calls. Let them process this. The next contact should be through me. He was right. I needed distance, clarity. I booked myself into a spa resort 2 hours north, turned off my phone. For 4 days, I swam, got massages, read books, and didn't think about my son or his venomous wife. I needed to remember who I was before I became Mom the Beggar. I was Margaret Foster. I'd built a career, survived widowhood, raised a child alone. I was not weak, and I would not be treated like I was. Friday afternoon, I returned to my apartment refreshed, clear-headed, and ready for whatever came next. What came next was an envelope taped to my door. Inside, a handwritten letter from Daniel. No Jessica's handwriting, just his. Mom, please, let's talk. Just you and me. No lawyers, no Jessica. I'm begging you. There's a cafe on Riverside, the one near where we used to get ice cream when I was a kid. Saturday, 2 p.m.? Please, I need to understand. Daniel quote. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for tricks. But it sounded like my son, the son I used to know. Tom's voice echoed in my head. Don't meet without me present. But this was still my child. Saturday, I arrived at Riverside Cafe at 1:55. Daniel was already there, in the corner booth, looking like he hadn't slept in days. No Jessica in sight. I slid into the seat across from him. 5 minutes, Daniel. Then I'm leaving. She doesn't know I'm here, he said immediately. I told her I was meeting a college friend. So you're lying to her now, too? He flinched. Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. About you, about Jessica, about anything. The truth is simple. I bought you a house. Your wife called me a beggar. You said nothing. I'm taking back what's mine. It's not that simple. His voice cracked. Mom, I was in shock that night. I should have defended you, I know that. But Jessica, she's under so much pressure. Her mother's sick. Her job is terrible. We're trying for a baby. Are you? Because she mentioned a baby that doesn't exist when she was trying to manipulate you on my doorstep. Daniel's face went red. She was emotional. But Mom, can't you see? This house thing, taking it away, it'll destroy us. Is that what you want? To destroy your own son? I want you to stand up and be a man, I said quietly. I want you to acknowledge that what Jessica said was unforgivable. I want you to show me that I raised someone with a spine. I'm here, aren't I? In secret. Lying to your wife to meet your mother. That's not courage, Daniel. That's cowardice with better lighting. He leaned forward, desperate now. What do you want from me? Tell me, and I'll do it. An apology? We'll both apologize. Money? We'll pay you back. With what money? Jessica's secret savings? His mouth opened, closed. You really did investigate us. I protected myself. You made that necessary. Mom. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back. Please. I'm asking you, parent to child, don't do this. We'll do better. I'll do better. Just give us another chance. This was the temptation, the soft words, the appeal to motherhood, to forgiveness, to unconditional love. How easy it would be to say yes, to take him back, to pretend that night never happened, but it did happen, and nothing he'd said acknowledged the fundamental problem. Jessica's cruelty, his silence, the lack of respect that had been building for years. Daniel, when your father died, you were 26. Do you remember what you said to me? He blinked, confused by the shift. I said I'd take care of you. You said, Mom, I'm the man of the family now. I'll make sure you're never alone. Do you remember that? Yes? Where was that man last Sunday? Where was he when Jessica demanded you throw me out? Where was he when she called me a beggar in my own house? Tears were sliding down his face now. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Not anymore. I stood up. Daniel grabbed my arm. Please, don't leave. Not like this. The notice stands. 30 days. After that, we'll see. We'll lose everything. No, I corrected gently. You'll lose a house you never actually owned. Maybe you'll find something more valuable in the process. Like self-respect. I walked out of the cafe, leaving my son crying in the corner booth. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I made it to my car before my own tears came. That evening, I did something I should have done weeks ago. I called my college roommate, Patricia, who lived 2 states away but had remained a close friend through decades. Maggie? Sweetheart, you sound terrible. What's wrong? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, making occasional sounds of sympathy and, toward the end, outrage. That little witch called you what? Patricia's voice could strip paint. And Daniel just stood there, like a statue. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry, but I have to say, I'm proud of you. That surprised me. Proud? You're standing up for yourself. So many women our age, we let our kids walk all over us because we're afraid of losing them. But Maggie, you can't lose what you never really had. Her words settled something in my chest. You need support, Patricia continued. Real support. Not lawyers, though thank God for Tom, but friends. People who remind you that you're not crazy for expecting basic human decency. I feel so alone. You're not. I'm coming to visit next weekend. We'll have wine and remind ourselves that we're magnificent women who don't take crap from anyone. How's that sound? I smiled for the first time in days. That sounds perfect. After we hung up, I felt steadier, grounded. The phone rang again, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Margaret Foster? A young woman's voice. Speaking. Ms. Foster, my name is Rachel Kim. I'm with the County Mediation Services. Your son, Daniel Foster, has requested family mediation regarding a property dispute. Would you be willing to participate? I paused. Mediation. A neutral third party. Maybe that was what we needed. I'll need to discuss it with my attorney first. Of course. I'll email you the details. Just so you know, Ms. Foster. Mediation is voluntary, but it often helps families find solutions without going to court. After she hung up, I felt something shift. Maybe there was still a path forward, or maybe it was just another trap. Either way, I wasn't backing down. The mediation email came Tuesday morning, along with a separate message from Daniel. Please, Mom, let's try this. For us, I discussed it with Tom over lunch. He was skeptical. Mediation only works if both parties come in good faith. Do you trust that Jessica will? No, but I trust that if she doesn't, it'll be documented by a neutral third party. Tom smiled slightly. Always thinking like a consultant. All right, I'll be there with you. The mediation was scheduled for Friday afternoon at a bland office building downtown. Rachel Kim met us in the lobby, a petite woman in her 30s with a calm, professional demeanor. Ms. Foster, thank you for coming. Mr. Chen, good to meet you. The other party is already in the conference room. Both of them? I asked. Yes, Daniel and Jessica Foster. Tom and I exchanged glances. So much for just you and me, Mom. The conference room was aggressively neutral. Beige walls, a long table, a box of tissues strategically placed in the center. Daniel sat on one side, looking nervous. Jessica sat beside him, dressed in a soft pink blouse and pearls, her hair perfectly styled. She looked like she was going to a garden party, not a mediation. Margaret, Rachel began warmly, thank you for joining us. The purpose of today is to facilitate open communication and hopefully find a resolution that works for everyone. This is a safe space. Everything said here is confidential, except what my attorney and I choose to use later, Tom said pleasantly. Rachel's smile tightened slightly. Within legal bounds, yes. Shall we begin? Daniel, you requested this mediation. Would you like to start? Daniel cleared his throat. Mom, I wanted to say, in front of a witness, that I'm sorry for not defending you that night, for not standing up to Jessica when she said those things. It was wrong. You deserved better. It sounded rehearsed, but there was genuine emotion in his voice. Jessica squeezed his hand supportively, her face the picture of contrition. I'm sorry too, Margaret, she said softly. I was having a bad day, a bad month, really, and I took it out on you. It was completely inappropriate. I hope you can forgive me. I watched her carefully, the demure posture, the gentle tone, the doe eyes. This was a performance. Thank you for the apologies, I said neutrally. I appreciate them. Rachel looked pleased. Wonderful. Now, regarding the property at 2247 Maple Street. I'd like to propose a solution, Jessica interrupted gently. If Margaret is truly the owner, as she claims, then perhaps we could formalize what was already happening. We continue making payments, real mortgage payments, and gradually buy the house from her. Transfer of deed when we've paid, say, 70% of the value? It sounded almost reasonable. That was the danger. Tom leaned forward. Let me clarify. You want Ms. Foster to essentially give you a $680,000 house for $476,000, with no down payment, no credit check, and no legal protections for her as the lender. Jessica's sweet expression didn't waver. It's her son's family home. Surely family is more important than money. Family works both ways, I said quietly. Exactly, Jessica brightened, which is why I'm sure you'll agree that kicking us out, especially with a baby on the way, would be unconscionable. I glanced at Daniel. He was looking at the table. You're pregnant? I asked directly. A tiny pause. We're trying, actively. And the stress of potentially losing our home isn't helping. Rachel intervened. Perhaps we could discuss a lease option? Ms. Foster retains ownership, but allows Daniel and Jessica to remain as tenants? At what rent? Tom asked. Market rate for a $680,000 home in that neighborhood would be approximately $4,200 a month. Jessica's mask slipped for just a second. Her eyes hardened. That's ridiculous. We can't afford that. You have $47,000 in savings, I said. The room went very quiet. Jessica's face flushed. That's private information. You had no right. I had every right to conduct due diligence on people who were making claims about financial hardship. This is harassment. Jessica stood up, her sweet facade evaporating. You're a vindictive old woman who can't stand that her son chose a wife, that he has his own life, so you're trying to destroy us. Jessica, Daniel tried to pull her back down. She yanked her arm away. No, I'm done pretending. She's been manipulating you your whole life, Daniel. Don't you see? She secretly bought the house so she'd always have control over you, so you'd always be dependent on her. I bought the house so my son would have a home, I said, my voice ice cold. A home he couldn't afford on his own. I asked for nothing in return except basic respect. You couldn't even give me that. Because you don't deserve it. You're a controlling, manipulative... Mrs. Foster. Rachel's professional calm was straining. Please, sit down. Why? So she can keep playing the victim? She has $500,000. She could retire tomorrow. But no, she has to punish us for one bad night. One bad night? I stood up too, my own control finally fraying. You called me a beggar. You demanded my son throw me out. And he said nothing. Nothing. That wasn't one bad night, Jessica. That was the truth finally coming out. You want the truth? Jessica's voice was venomous now, all pretense gone. Fine. You're pathetic. You're a lonely old woman who tried to buy her son's love because you have nothing else in your life. No friends. No hobbies. Just sad Sunday dinners where you try to relive the past. Well, newsflash. Daniel doesn't need you anymore. He has me. He has a real family now, and you can't stand it. Daniel was pale as paper. Jess, stop. No, she needs to hear this. She's trying to destroy our lives because she can't accept that she's not the center of yours anymore. I gathered my purse, my hands remarkably steady. Tom, we're done here. Agreed. Running away again? Jessica called after us. Just like you ran away last Sunday? I turned at the door. I gave you a house. You gave me contempt. The eviction notice stands. You have 3 weeks left. We'll sue. We have rights. No, Tom said calmly. You don't. See you in court if necessary, though I strongly advise you to find alternative housing instead. We left. Behind us, I could hear Jessica shrieking and Rachel trying to calm her. In the elevator, I started shaking. Tom put a steadying hand on my shoulder. "Breathe, Margaret. Just breathe." "She showed her true face," I whispered. "She did. And it's all documented. Rachel will have to write a report. This will only help your case." But I wasn't thinking about the case. I was thinking about my son, still sitting in that conference room with a woman who just revealed herself to be exactly what I'd feared. Would he finally see it? Or was he too far gone? The shaking turned to determination. 3 weeks! They had 3 weeks to figure out their lives. And if Daniel still chose Jessica after this, then I'd know exactly where I stood, and I'd act accordingly. The final confrontation came on day 29. Tom had prepared all the paperwork. The eviction would be enforceable tomorrow. I'd even found them a listing, a nice 2-bedroom condo well within their actual budget, and emailed it to Daniel. No response. I spent the day at the office catching up on client work I'd neglected, staying busy, staying focused. At 6 p.m., my secretary buzzed. "Ms. Foster, there are 2 people here to see you. They don't have an appointment." I knew who it was before she said their names. "Send them in." Daniel and Jessica entered my office. Not the Jessica from mediation. No pearls, no pink blouse. This Jessica wore jeans and a hoodie, her hair pulled back, face puffy from crying. Real crying this time. Daniel looked worse. Hollow-eyed, defeated. "Mom," he said, "please, we need to talk." I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. They sat. My office had always been my power space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Mahogany desk. Credentials on the wall. This was where I'd negotiated million-dollar deals, where I'd built my reputation. This was where I was in control. "You have 15 minutes, I said. "I have dinner plans." I didn't, but they didn't need to know that. Jessica spoke first, and for once, she sounded genuine. "Margaret, I found something. Something I need to show you." She pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, and slid it across my desk. A bank statement? Joint account? But there was a highlighted transaction that made my blood freeze. Transfer to M. Foster Trust. $3,100. Dated 3 years ago. And every month since. "I don't understand," I said slowly. "Daniel's been paying the mortgage," Jessica said. "The real mortgage. I found the account tonight when I was packing. He has a separate account I didn't know about." I looked at Daniel. He was staring at his hands. "I set it up right after we moved in," he said quietly. "You told me you'd help with the down payment. I thought you meant a few $1,000s. When I saw the closing documents, saw that you'd paid $200,000, Mom, I couldn't just accept that. So you've been paying me back?" "Trying to. I contacted the bank. They told me you were the mortgage holder. They gave me an account number. I've been sending money every month. $3,100. I picked up weekend consulting work. Freelance accounting." Jessica thought I was working overtime at my regular job. Jessica's voice was tight. "He's been working 16-hour days for 3 years. I thought he was avoiding me, avoiding our marriage. I resented you because Daniel was always too tired or too busy, and I blamed you for making us take a house we couldn't afford." The pieces were rearranging in my mind. But the automatic payments from my account, "I never saw those," Daniel interrupted. "I just knew I was sending money to an account marked M. Foster Trust. I thought it was going to the mortgage. I didn't know you were paying it separately. You've been paying me $37,000 a year for 3 years, I calculated. Where did you think that money was going? To you, to pay you back. Mom, you gave us $200,000. Did you think I'd just take that and call it even?" My mind was reeling. The skimmed cash withdrawals? My consulting clients pay cash, Daniel said. I deposit it, then transfer it. Jess didn't know about the account, so I had to make it look like the money was coming from our joint checking. Jessica made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. We've been fighting about money for 3 years. I thought we were broke. He wouldn't tell me why. I thought, God, I thought he might be gambling or having an affair. I was trying to maintain some dignity, Daniel said, voice breaking. I couldn't stand the idea of my mother giving me a house like I was a charity case. So I worked myself to the bone trying to pay her back, and in the process, I destroyed my marriage. And I, Jessica said softly, became a monster. I took out all my frustration on the one person who'd actually helped us, because I didn't know the truth. The silence in the office was deafening. I pulled up my own banking records on my computer. There it was. M. Foster Trust, an account I'd set up years ago for estate planning and then forgotten about. Auto deposits of $3,100 for 36 months, $111,600. My son had paid me back more than half the down payment without me ever knowing. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. Because you'd have told me to stop. And I couldn't. I needed to do this for myself. Jessica wiped her eyes. Margaret, I said terrible things to you, unforgivable things. But I said them because I thought you were this poor woman leeching off Daniel's success while he worked himself to death. I didn't know. I didn't understand. That's not an excuse, I said firmly. No, it's not. It's an explanation, not an excuse. She met my eyes. I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. If I'd known the truth, I'd have been on my knees thanking you, not screaming at you to leave. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. The dark circles. The thin frame. The exhaustion radiating from every pore. Daniel, you worked yourself sick trying to repay a gift I freely gave. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt like debt. Like I owed you. You owed me nothing except respect. That's all I ever wanted. I know that now. I should have known it then. I should have defended you that night, regardless of what Jessica said, regardless of the circumstances. That failure, that's on me. Not on Jess. Not on the stress or the money. On me. Finally, he understood. The eviction notice, Jessica started. Stands, I said. For now. You're moving out tomorrow. They both slumped. But, I continued, you're moving into the condo I found, which I will rent to you at $2,000 a month, lease in your names until you get back on your feet. Daniel's head snapped up. Mom? And Daniel, you're going to quit those consulting gigs. You're going to sleep. You're going to save your marriage. Understand? Yes. And Jessica. I fixed her with a hard stare. You and I are going to have dinner, once a month, just us. No Daniel. We're going to learn to communicate like adults. She swallowed hard. Yes, absolutely. The house at Maple Street? I'm selling it. The market's good right now. I'll get fair value. And I'm putting half the proceeds in a trust for your future children. My grandchildren. The other half is mine. That's more than fair. Tom's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him arrive. I called him when you came in, I admitted. I needed a witness. Daniel stood, crossed to my desk, and did something he hadn't done since he was a child. He hugged me. I'm so sorry, Mom. For all of it. I hugged him back, tears finally coming. I know, sweetheart. I know. Jessica stood too, hesitant. Margaret, I know I don't deserve it, but can I? I opened my other arm. We stood there, the three of us, crying in my office while Tom discreetly took notes. The battle was over. The war was won. But more importantly, my family was healing. The house at 2247 Maple Street sold in 3 days for $695,000, $15,000 over asking price. I made sure Daniel and Jessica were there when we signed the closing papers. Not to punish them, but so they could see that this chapter was truly closed. The buyer was a young family with 2 kids and a golden retriever. They reminded me of Robert and me, 30 years ago, full of hope and dreams. And they'll be happy here, Daniel said as we watched them do their final walkthrough. It's a good house. It is, I agreed. And now it'll be theirs. Really theirs. Jessica squeezed my hand. Over the past few weeks, we'd had 3 dinners together. They'd been awkward at first, but slowly, we were building something real. Not friendship exactly, but mutual respect, understanding. I still can't believe I said those things, she said softly, watching the family through the window. You believed a narrative that made sense with the information you had, I said. Humans do that. The question is what you do when you learn the truth. I'm trying to do better. I can see that. The sale proceeds were wired to my account the following Monday. $695,000. After closing costs and paying off the remaining mortgage, I was left with $615,000. I called my financial advisor and set up 2 trusts. The first, $300,000 for Daniel and Jessica's future children. Education, weddings, first homes. They'd never have to struggle the way their parents had. The second, $150,000 split between 3 charities Robert and I had always supported. Literacy programs, food banks, women's shelters. The remaining $165,000? That was mine. Freedom money, travel money, spoil the grandchildren when they arrive money. But there was one more piece of business to attend to. The condo I'd rented to Daniel and Jessica had an owner who was moving to Florida. She'd asked if I wanted to buy it. After some negotiation, we settled on $385,000. I bought it. Then I called Daniel and Jessica to my apartment. They arrived looking nervous, probably expecting more legal papers, more consequences. Instead, I handed them a document. What's this? Daniel asked. A deed to the condo, in both your names. Jessica's hands started shaking. Margaret, we can't. You can, and you will, but there are conditions. Anything, Daniel said immediately. I pulled out a contract Tom and I had drafted. 1. You continue to pay $2,000 a month, but it goes into a savings account in your names. When you've saved $50,000, it's yours. Emergency fund. Down payment on a bigger place someday. Whatever you need. 2. Daniel, you're in therapy, weekly, to address your need to prove yourself through self-destruction. This is non-negotiable. He nodded, eyes wet. Already started. 3 sessions in. Good. 3. Jessica, you're going back to school. You mentioned wanting a master's degree in marketing. There's a program at the State University. Part-time. I'll cover tuition. Jessica was openly crying now. Why? After everything I said. Because you're my daughter-in-law. Because you're trying. Because I can afford it and I choose to invest in my family. But Jessica, I waited until she met my eyes. If you ever disrespect me like that again, we're done. No second chances. Clear? No. Crystal, I swear, Margaret, never again. 4, I continued. Sunday dinners twice a month. You host one, I host one. We rebuild this family properly. And 5? Daniel asked. 5. You name your first child after Robert. Boy or girl, I don't care, but my husband deserves that honor. Daniel laughed through his tears. Deal. All of it. God, Mom, I don't deserve this. No, I agreed. You don't. You both messed up spectacularly, but you're trying to fix it. That counts for something. I handed them the keys to the condo. It's yours. Paid in full. No mortgage. You'll only pay property taxes and HOA fees. Maybe now you two can actually relax and build the life you want. Jessica threw her arms around me. Thank you. Thank you. I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve this. Just be a good wife to my son and a good mother to my grandchildren. That's all I ask. After they left, I stood in my apartment alone. The money was spent. The house was sold. The battles were over. I'd won. Not by destroying them, though I could have. Not by holding grudges, though I'd been entitled to. I'd won by forcing accountability, demanding respect, and then, when they'd earned it, showing grace. That's what power really is. Not revenge, not punishment. It's having the strength to say no when necessary and the wisdom to say yes when possible. I poured myself a glass of wine, toasted Robert's photo, and smiled. We did good, honey, I whispered to his frozen smile. Our boy's going to be okay. And for the first time in months, I truly believed it. 6 months later, my life had transformed completely. I reduced my consulting hours and finally started living. Italy for 3 weeks, the trip Robert and I never took. Book clubs, hiking groups, teaching financial literacy to women who needed it. My calendar filled with genuine connections, not obligations. Sunday dinners with Daniel and Jessica became real family time. We laughed, cooked together, talked about things that mattered. Jessica thrived in her graduate program. Her intelligence finally channeled productively. She'd even apologized to her own mother, realizing she'd been projecting her insecurities onto other women for years. Daniel quit his second job, started sleeping, gained back his weight. His therapist helped him understand that accepting help didn't make him weak. It made him human. Your father would be proud of you, I told him one Sunday. I think he'd be proud of you, Mom, for not letting us destroy ourselves. 3 months after moving into the condo, Jessica discovered she was pregnant. A boy. They asked me to be in the delivery room. I cried for an hour, but not everyone's story ended happily. Jessica's mother, Linda, visited once. Within 10 minutes, I understood where Jessica's old behavior came from. Brittle, judgmental, cruel. She tried to criticize me at dinner. Daniel shut her down immediately. She left in a rage. Over the following months, I heard updates. Linda's marriage was falling apart. Her other daughter stopped speaking to her. She was alone, bitter, lashing out at everyone. Jessica had chosen a different path. Meanwhile, I started dating a retired professor named George, redecorated my apartment, bought a piano, and took lessons after 40 years. I lived. One evening, a package arrived. Inside, a onesie reading, Grandma's Little Robert, and a note from Daniel. It's a boy, Mom. Robert Daniel Foster, due in 8 weeks. We can't wait for you to meet him. I sat on my couch and cried happy tears. I'd won my family back, healthier, stronger, honest. And that was the greatest victory of all. So what did I learn from all of this? First, your worth isn't measured by what you give others. It's measured by how you allow yourself to be treated. Second, setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's essential. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior. Third, grace and accountability can coexist. You can forgive without forgetting. You can help without sacrificing yourself. And finally, family isn't just blood. It's respect. It's effort. It's showing up even when it's hard. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have fought back or walked away forever? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you deserve respect. Don't ever forget that.